Story 1. I do not want to talk to you anymore, you empty-headed animal food trough wiper. I fart in your general direction. Your mother was a hamster, and your father smelled of elderberries. Story 2. This one was very specific, but I used to work at a big box store similar to Walmart. I was walking past the chip aisle when a mom and her teenage son walked by. I heard her say to him, "Let's get you something salty because that's how you've been acting all day," as she turned into the chip aisle. I think about her often. Story 3. I once heard someone get called an unsalted pretzel. Plain, bland, and unremarkable. I have to say, it stuck with me as the perfect blend of harmless yet surprisingly cutting. Story 4. Fell out of the ugly tree and hit every branch on the way down. Or, you'll excuse me if I don't stoop to your level. The descent would be far too drastic. Story 5. A colleague of mine was told the following by a waitress when he had tried to hit on her. You have more character in your personality than you do in your pants. Story 6. My grandmother would always say, "You're as useful as tits on a boar hog." And when someone makes a comment to me about not doing something the way I would, I always respond, "Well, we can't all be perfect." And lately, I've heard, "You look easy to draw," as a slight, which is just really funny to me. Story 7. Daughters were in the back seat, ages 4 and 5, angrily trading non-cuss word insults at each other. Poopy head, dirty snake, etc. Finally, one went over the top. You, tomato eater. Complete silence. They both hated tomatoes. Story 8. Every time you speak, I cannot help but think that somewhere, somehow, a village cries out for its idiot. And even if you lived in a village full of idiots, you would still be the village idiot. Story 9. My drill sergeant still had the best one I ever heard. Mind you, it's a monkey having sex with the football, but you have to use the F word. The second best one is this. You are a 55-watt bulb in a 60-watt world. You, son, are just a little dim. Story 10. In our country, when someone thinks they are smarter than you but is actually saying nonsense, you just tell them, "Oh, it looks like you ate the King Solomon's dish, didn't you?" And I absolutely love it. Story 11. The comedian Benny Hill talking about the right-wing comedian Jim Davidson. Met Jim Davidson, a fine comedian and a gentleman. Had drinks with all three of them. Story 12. When an accountant was explaining numbers to the chief financial officer and it was all wrong. The chief financial officer said, "Spare me your drivel and come back when you understand the numbers." Story 13. I heard this in "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?" An angry father said to his son, who just said something stupid, "I'm glad your mother died in childbirth because if she'd lived to see you grow up, she'd have died of shame." Story 14. Angry shoe shopper. I can't believe you would say that to my face. Al Bundy. Well, I would have said it to your backside, but my car only has half a tank of gas. Story 15. An old lady was giving me a hard time about my baby not having socks on in 65-degree weather in the southern United States, and I said, "I bet your children don't call you. The joke's on me. I'm raising a kid as sassy as I am." She saw her cousin's ultrasound picture and asked her aunt, "Why do you have a baby monster in your belly?" Story 16. Originally posted. You could possibly just check these posts or look at the other 500 times this was posted. Story 17. My nephew was talking in his sleep. I don't know what he was dreaming about, but he was definitely serious when he said, "Yo, if I pee in your face, it doesn't mean I care if you're thirsty." He did curse, but still the whole truth, and worth a mention. Story 18. I read that in Germany there's an insult that translates to hard money prostitute. Like, your degradations have reached the point that you'll accept pocket change for your services. Story 19. Wisdom is chasing you, but you are way faster. Mirrors cry when you look at them. You are so fast that, in order to watch a movie, you have to buy the whole theater. The reason why you have a deadbeat father is because he could not believe such a monstrous creature held his DNA. Story 20. My days of not taking you seriously are certainly coming to a middle. Mal Reynolds to Jane, Firefly. Also, she's 2 tomatoes short of a thick sauce. Coworker regarding another coworker. Story 21. I hope one day you live by yourself so you can see how terrible of a roommate you are. Me, to my horrible roommate who never cleaned, used my stuff without asking, forgot to pay me back for bills more than once, and actually never paid me back for the last one. Never bought anything for the apartment, stole the stuff I did buy for the apartment, and never used it because he still never cleaned, and stole my food. Story 22. I referred to a girl who had recently left our office as the gift that keeps on giving, because for months after, we kept finding work that she had not finished. It caught on, and now anyone who is useless is called that. Story 23. I don't like overly elaborate insults. I think insults should be straight to the point and as hurtful as possible, like a punch in the face. One of my favorites, without any cursing. Your opinion means nothing to me. It might seem tame, but people get so angry when you tell them that. Story 24. Yo, how about you buff these pumas for 20 cents so your lights won't get cut off? And from The Dark Knight, the Joker. During a private sit-down meeting with the gangsters. If we don't deal with this now, soon little Gamble here won't be able to get a nickel for his grandma. Oh, and when you go out on a date with a guy, does he kiss you goodnight or just shake your hand? Story 25. My ex got a DUI before I met him. When he arrived in the drunk tank, he was scrawny, young, and out of place. Another guy said to him, "Man, you look like you should be fixing my computer." Story 26. One time my uncle said to me, "You know you're adopted, and I never told you to call me uncle. We were just messing around." But that stopped me in my tracks. Most catastrophic burn I've ever heard. Story 27. You are so overweight that Thanos had to applaud. I understand it's inappropriate to joke about someone's weight, but this exchange was between friends and meant to be humorous. They were bantering playfully. Story 28. Beamy, driving at night in the dead of winter on a radio-controlled road. A road where you need a radio to call out your vehicle size and which kilometer marker you're passing to alert other travelers to your position to avoid accidents, and listening to the radio chatter. Newfoundland driver. Geez. Flipping Christ, you bozo. You almost ran me off the bloody road. Some person. You had plenty of space. Newfoundland driver. You've got plenty of space between your ears. Cue every person traveling the road broadcasting their laughter to everyone else for about 5 minutes. Story 29. Told to my friend by a bully in high school. Your mother's suicide letter was probably just a picture of you. My friend did nothing to deserve this and eventually took his own life too from all the bullying. So to me, it will always be the most intense insult I've ever heard. Story 30. Brain-eating bacteria would starve inside your head. I saw someone say this in response to someone criticizing a singer unprovoked the other day, and the gasp I let out. Story 31. My late husband liked to get on Omegle sometimes when he drank so he could find strangers to talk to. Some guy took one look at my husband and went, "Humph, Walmart young gravy," then hung up. The savage part is he was spot on with the description. Story 32. So, some friends and I were walking back to an off-campus party one night. One guy with us was normally the soft-spoken dude. Hardly ever saw him angry or upset. We were waiting at a crosswalk when some women pulled up in a beat-up convertible. They started catcalling us and asked if we wanted to go party. It was already 3:30 a.m., and we just wanted to get some sleep. We tried to turn them down and be nice about it. But when the signal changed and we could walk, they just followed us. Finally, they got fed up and started throwing insults. Now, these women were not petite. They were large and in charge. Something we had not mentioned at all. Not that it would have gotten us in the car if they weren't. So finally, the biggest woman said, "Fine, your loss, you losers." Not like we wanted some short-tempered people anyway. Our quiet friend whipped around and said, "We tried being nice and turning you down. You want to know the real reason? Because we couldn't fit in that car with you. Right now, there are more pounds in that car than in a British bank." We were all stunned. Thankfully, we were back to the campus entrance where the street ended. So they just yelled some more stuff at us and took off. He felt bad the next day and wanted to try and find them. We told him not to worry about it. We did try saying no, and they just kept on pushing. It's their fault. Story 33. I know 5 fat people and 4 of them are you, but I change it to my cat. I know 5 fat cats and 4 of them are you because I wouldn't actually say that to a real person. Story 34. The way you pulled in makes me wish your dad pulled out. Your mom is so slow it took her 9 months to make a joke. You're such a muppet. For gamers, you look like you'd drop common loot. Story 35. Someone once told me, you look like the kind of guy whose go-to song for karaoke is Spirit in the Sky by Norman Greenbaum, and you don't even need to look at the lyrics. I'm not even entirely sure what that means, but I was absolutely gutted. Still kind of am. Story 36. The only thing I have holding me back is that I have self-respect and dignity. Thank God for Kristen, who is unburdened by those anchors. Story 37. Apparently it sounds better in the original Greek. I sleep with your sister while your mother holds the towels. Also, may goats defile the grave of your maternal grandmother. Story 38. As a kid, the funniest was, you're pretty, pause for the smile, pretty ugly. And, you're not ugly, you're just not pretty. As an adult who enjoys video games, you look like you drop basic loot when defeated. As someone with glasses, I wouldn't hit that even if I had 20/20. Story 39. Always liked former Canadian Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau's reply when told Richard Nixon had insulted him. I've been called worse things by better people. Story 40. For my favorite books. A deeply stupid, griping, illiberal, avid, tenacious, pinch-fist lickpenny. A sordid lickpenny and a shrew. Referring to the same person. The most unromantic beast that ever urged its squat thick bulk across the face of the protesting earth. From a different series, General. These men deserve better than taking orders from a man who can't count past 20 unless he takes his boots off. And of course, well, my days of taking you seriously are certainly coming to a middle. Story 41. Ones that I have used. I was pro-life until I met you. Your mother wishes it were possible to sue sperm. I know you're sorry. I met your parents. You will be a very sorry person your entire life. 4 out of 5 doctors recommend you as the cure for joy. It's brave to live a life to be the example of what not to do. I need you to hand me 12 envelopes stamped and addressed to your mother. I'm going to crap in each and every one of them and mail them to her for payback for giving birth to you. Story 42. My daughter takes a great deal of pride in not being mean. She is 18 now, but even back when she was a little kid, she would go out of her way to say something kind. She will say things like, "Oh my God, you tried so hard," or, "I love that you thought I'd like that." She says it in the most perky, upbeat tone, not sarcastic at all. But we know it's because she literally can't think of a single nice thing to say, and that makes it an absolutely devastating burn. Story 43. You have the attention span of a gnat. This was my father speaking to my sister. And from my mother, your sister should have been a blowjob. I found them both hysterical and confusing at the same time, as she has always been the clear favorite child. Story 44. Maybe you should stop talking and think about what you want to say before you say them. This was said to an adult woman speaking absolute nonsense and really dumb things in a group of people, to the point they were all looking at each other wondering if she was for real. The best response I ever came up with was to a comment from someone saying, "We're in America, you speak English here," while his own posts were riddled with misuse of your or their/there. So I said, "You really expect people to automatically learn English? You've lived here your whole life and you haven't even mastered it." Story 45. I don't know if it's the best, but it lives rent-free in my head. You're so ugly not even a llama would want you. This particular insult was shouted at me by a shoplifter who was angry I got our stuff back. Story 46. I was a doorman for a function venue in the city. One night there was a hen party, but it wasn't unusual, just business as usual. Towards the end of my shift, there was a disturbance, a mother and daughter arguing. I heard the mother scream at her, "I knew I should have swallowed you." Man, the girl's face was a picture. Story 47. My ex-girlfriend and I were arguing once, and she kept annoying me over the phone. She called me an overgrown jelly baby, and then hung up. I just stood in the center of town, looked at my phone, and burst out laughing. Story 48. If you took your brain out and placed it on the edge of a razor blade, it would look like a pea rolling down a four-lane highway. Told to me by a teacher. I felt honored. Story 49. My dad was from the hollers of West Virginia. He used to say, he couldn't pour piss out of a boot with instructions on the heel. That would have been over 50 years ago, but I still remember it. Story 50. Guy broke up with his girlfriend at work. They had an argument one day. She said something like, I messed around with someone. He just said, of course you did, you're nothing but trouble. Story 51. I like how the British can use anything as an insult if you just put you absolute in front of it. You absolute spoon is probably my favorite I've heard. Story 52. Your mother needs either a hug or a punch for how you turned out. The more you talk about women, the more sure I am you've never seen a real-life vagina. From the ghost and the darkness. I'm a very considerate person. My mother taught me that. Why are you laughing? You don't think I'm considerate? I don't believe you had a mother. Story 53. You're a good guy, and any woman would be lucky to have you. There's someone for everyone. God has someone special for you. You just need to be patient. All of these have been said to me by people who have had their special someone for at least 10 years or longer. They have no idea how hard it is to find someone, especially since the odds are they will be together until death. Story 54. My son was in second grade. I was getting my archaeology degree. He learned the phrase Homo sapien. We got called to the office for calling his classmate a Homo sapien. We said, that's not a slur or insult. To which the yard duty said, we know what he meant. We kept pushing until she said he meant homosexual. I asked if they were honestly saying they believed I taught my son what a homosexual was and that I thought it was an insult, but did not think I would teach him what a Homo sapien was. Turns out he told a kid they were the worst specimen of a Homo sapien ever. Never been more proud of my kid.